Yo,
Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the live deadline day stream. We're going to be taking you up to the transfer deadline. We've got just under an hour to go. And not a lot has happened, has it? Let's be honest.
Not for us.
no, it hardly ever does with Everton on deadline day. No, not through lack of trying, but it's just clubs in that much of a state, isn't it? And badly run.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there having that conversation, I don't know how many times we're going to have to say it, but they've got it wrong again, clearly. I mean, let's go through the deals that have gone on anyway. Obviously, we've done a few things in and many things out prior to the deadline, but today it looks like Alex Iwobi's moving to Fulham. Neil Maupay's going on loan back to Brentford with a buy option, which I don't know what's going on there, to be honest.
I'm just glad we don't have to look at him anymore.
I'm not saying Maupay's a well beater or not, but surely we should be putting some sort of buy obligation in there or something if we're going to...
But yeah, there's an option to buy at the end of it.
But an obligation, I mean, an option means he's probably going to be crap and they'll just send them back and we'll be here again next year.
Well, you can't force teams to buy players if they don't want to, mate. If they might have just walked away and said, we don't want an obligation to buy, and we probably just want his wages off the books, don't we? So it's kicking the can down the road, isn't it?
We seem to do that with every single player. Obviously, Mason Holgate's recently gone out on loan. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some random loan for Andre Gomez in the next hour or so. Any news on him going anywhere? Or...
No, but the likes of Gabama and Gomez, who are still on the books, I wouldn't assume that they're going to be here till January. I think there's still enough time for clubs around the world when their transfer windows, not just Saudi, there could be clubs in, I don't know, North America, South America, maybe over in Asia that might take a punt on them.
I think Turkey have an extra week, don't they?
I think they do, yeah. I'm still pretty sure that the likes of Andre Gomez and Gabama will still be heading out the door. Maybe Damari Gray, don't know about him. But just because the European window shuts doesn't mean that, Everton are going still here. I still think there'll be a few more outs.
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, like you say, regardless of the situation with our squad, it doesn't seem like those players are in the reckoning at all. So we might as well get shut of them.
Well, I know people are not happy over the amount of players we're letting go out the door because where it leaves us in terms of squad size, but you've got to look at it from a business point of view, and that's what I think the club are doing. We've got to get the wage bill cut down. It's absolutely insane the amount of money that the club has to spend on wages, how much of our turnover goes on to paying players. And a lot of these players are people who don't even get a look in, even when things are terrible. The likes of Gomez, the likes of your Gabamans, the likes of your... not because they're not any good. Tom Cannon. I know people are upset that Tom Cannon's gone out, but realistically, was Tom Cannon going to play under Sean Dyche much this season? No, he wasn't. When there's money on the table there, the club have to probably make a business decision rather than an emotional decision and just think, yeah, we need that money in the coffers. We're just going to have to let him go if he's not going to play any part.
I will admit that's the one thing I will say we've started doing a lot better recently is just cashing in on our young players, because I know too often we've hung on to young players and they haven't fulfilled the potential, and then we let them go for free when they're like 25. Pennington's the obvious one that springs to mind, but we've had so many of them. It's about time we started cashing in on these players when the stocks are higher.
And now we need to do that now more than ever. 5 years ago, I don't think we would be selling a Tom Cannon, player who had a loan spell and done well, and a lot of fans were hoping that he would maybe get a chance here or there, or he'd go out on another loan. But the way things are, if you're not going to be in the first team squad, if you're not going to be in the 18, the start 11, or one of the first 7 players on the bench, then you can go, essentially, because the club just needs as much money as we can. I think I read, in terms of turnover, the club spends over £10 million a month just to keep the lights on, basically just to pay whatever we need the players, the loans, pay off the loans we need to pay off, pay the players the wages that are in their contracts, to do whatever. If we're spending that much money on just keeping the doors open, then we're going to have to generate this money from somewhere because the sponsors aren't doing it because they're all been sanctioned. So we're having to deal with the consequences of mistakes that were made in the years gone by. Now,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's been the recent news, obviously, about MSP dropping out and stuff. What's all this thing about this rights and media funding? Because that seems to have like screwed us over completely.
they are.
Is that to get signings in, or is that for the stadium?
No, rights and media funding are a club who are a group, an organisation who years and years ago we took out a loan with to keep the lights on. Basically, this dates pre-Macheri. It was back when Ken Wright was in sole control and when Robert Elstone was here around early 2010s. They were a loan that we took out with them just to keep it going, and we've been slowly paying them off ever since. And I think that they must have some sort of like stake in the club at some point, because you'd think when Macheri, when he came in, would have just cleared out all that debt. Basically, the club are in bed with them, whether we like it or not. And they decided that they didn't, for some complicated reason, where's the Esk when you need him, or Arteri, they could explain this better than me. But they basically had the right to veto the deal, and they decided to veto the deal because MSP were basically going to invest in the club, to going to pour money into the stadium, and instead of taking it on as a debt to pay off the debt that we'd owe them for the money they were going to give us, we were going to give them a stake in the club and seats on the board. So instead of paying them back, they were just going to take whatever it was, 30% of Macheri's shares or 40%. But I think rights and media, whatever they are, had some sort of veto in that and decided no.
My God.
So I'm not explaining it fully. Arteri or could explain it better, or if you listen to any other podcasts with like the Esk on it or John Blaine, they would probably, give you the ins and outs exactly of what's happened. But basically, rights and media are a group who were the Philip Green, Ken Wright's brought them in. They're associated with Philip Green, and they've decided that the deal didn't work for them.
My God.
He was basically bankrolling the club, wasn't he, throughout Ken Wright's tenure, before Macheri turns up with all of his money. Before there was Usmanov and Macheri, it was Philip Green, a fella who takes money off pensioners. He doesn't pay his tax. He's Ken Wright's best mate, isn't he?
He is vile, him.
Yeah. Ken Wright's been mates with him for absolutely donkeys.
And I was thinking, I was hoping there'd be something like that, this loan that we've got with them or something might help us get a few players in the door, but
no, it was never happening. Any money that MSP were putting into the club was to go towards the stadium, because Macheri hasn't got the money to fund the stadium on his own anymore. It's the sanctions.
Right, let's have a gauge, just having a look. So I'm not even going to read that one. It's from Football Insider. I'm not even taking that seriously.
Maxwell Cornet is sat on the bench at Luton. He's not coming to Everton unless a helicopter lands in the middle of the Luton foot pitch and picks him up and takes him to Finch Farm. He's not coming to Everton this time of night.
Well, to be fair, you never know. Luton have pretty much got that stadium in the middle of a row of terraced houses. His agent could be sat in someone's bedroom. We're getting ready to sign the contract.
No.
Kevin Falwell's in some old lady's living room.
That's it, yeah. She's making him a brew as we speak.
I get people are concerned that we're leaving ourselves a little bit light in areas of the pitch, but again, I have seen some stuff today where it feels like people are just moaning for the sake of moaning. People are upset that we're letting Morpay go. 2 weeks ago, Morpay was getting sent threats on Twitter. Don't know, saying how terrible he is, and I think he's absolutely terrible. And all of a sudden, because he played a good pass the other night in the cup to put Danjuma through for the winning goal, everyone suddenly thinks that that Morpay could be a good squad player now. Play him in his proper position off the striker. Have they not seen him miss sitter after sitter after sitter after sitter every time he plays for us? Just contribute nothing every time we've used him. He's not a good player, and he'll go to Brentford and probably in a less pressure environment, and he might show a bit better form. He might hold his own there. But the fact is, Morpay doesn't belong anywhere near a club like Everton, with the pressures that you get of being an Everton player, with the expectation that Evertonians put on you, whether you think it goes over the top sometimes or not. Why people are upset that we're letting the likes of Morpay go out the door when he's contributed jack shite in the year he's been here, I don't get.
What I think might be upsetting people is, and it's going to lead me on to going through a few of the comments here, but I think people are getting upset because all these other clubs in the league, certainly ones down the bottom half with us, are bringing in so many good players, and we're
We
not.
don't have the money. We're skint, mate.
So Cole Costello said here, sorry for Mr. Boat, but how come Forest keep signing players for ridiculous prices and wages?
They're having their Everton 2017 to 19 period. You know, they're going to have to get into Europe at some point in the next season or two. Otherwise, they're going to fall afoul of FFP, I think.
They were
It's going
forced
to catch up with them.
If they wanted to make the signings they wanted today. I saw it's that, I don't know if they've done it now. That's Sangare from PSV. It was basically the only way you can bring that. The only way they could bring him in was sacking off Brennan Johnson. So I think that's why they brought in Hudson-Odoi on the cheap as well.
Yeah,
that's actually not bad business.
They've sold Brennan Johnson for what, 40-odd million?
I thought we should have tried Hudson-Odoi. I know he's had his injury issues, but nowadays, what sort of punt's 5 million nowadays?
Yeah,
it's 5 million up front.
I weren't sure about him.
What wages would he want as well? Do you know what I mean? I imagine
that
he's not
when we find out what wages he's on at Forest, but I can imagine they'll be decent at Forest.
It wouldn't shock me if we did look at the likes of Hudson-Odoi and we found out what his wage demands are and thought, no chance. The days of us giving anything close to anything over 50 grand to a completely unproven player should be long gone.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Is anyone sad to be losing Iwobi? Because Iwobi, unlike Morpay, had his uses here and there. But for the money they're giving us, I think we'd be insane to turn that down.
I think that's good business with a year left on his deal. I mean, I like him and he's one of our better players, but he's not irreplaceable, in my opinion. But the problem is we're not going to replace him.
For me, he's one of our better players when he plays centrally, and he's not going to play centrally under Dyche. The only manager he has really played centrally under was Lampard, and that was the only time he ever showed a little bit of form, really, wasn't it? In the 4 years or so he's been here. If Sean Dyche tried him out wide, he tried him on the left and the right last season, and it never really worked. The same way it never worked whenever Silva played him out there or whenever Ancelotti tried him out there. Good luck to Iwobi, nothing against them, but I think he's a perfect cage footballer, a five-a-side footballer. I think at Everton, when you've got to be a runner, when no matter whether you've got skill or not, Evertonians are just not going to take to you if you're not a player who's running around and looking like you're really exerting it yourself. So it's never really worked out for Iwobi, but to be offering us over 20 million for him, I think we spent 28 million on him, didn't we?
27, 28.
Yeah,
27, 28.
All the Arsenal loons like to think it was like 40 or something. But
there was add-ons. It would have gone up to 40 if Everton had got into the Champions League or something, after which we've got absolutely no way near. So I think the down payment was 28, but we've recouped 85% of that back. 22, over 80% of that fee we've got back. So Kevin Felwell, if he's done that deal, oh my God, he deserves a round of applause.
Oh yeah, I think it's a good deal. I'll be
honest. I've been, in spite of everything, I think Kevin Thelwell's not done terribly this window. I think he's done a good job with the sales, at least.
I think the recruitment as well. The way we've structured the Beto deal is really good. I think not having to pay any of it up front.
Harrison on loan's good as well. I think.
I think Felwell's done everything he could do that was realistically within his power to do. He's not going to fix everything in one window. He's not going to sort out every position, is he? But what was the one thing we needed at the start of this window? The absolute number one priority: get a striker, get some goals in this team. And he's got players who theoretically should be adding goals. We can't take it for a given that they'll do well. But he's added goals in the team, and he's got rid of quite a lot of deadwood players, to be blunt. Like, that just doesn't mean they're not necessarily good, but the likes of Mina and the was a deadwood player, because as good as he was only fit 5 games a season and he was a top earner. So that he has to go. We didn't give him a new deal, even though it was tempting to do it. We have got rid of Iwobi now, who's another big earner who
£100 a week, wasn't it?
100, somewhere around there. But I read a stat about Iwobi earlier on today, which just again, what's the word? Reaffirms why I'm happy to see him go. He's played 123 games in all competitions for Everton, and he's got 6 goals. 6 goals in 123 games.
And
now.
only 12 assists as well, I think.
And
I know stats are not everything.
8 of them last season of the 12.
Yeah, he's a good chance creator. I think he's in the top 4 or 5 chance creators in the league. But when you're in a team that doesn't have anyone to score the goals, then being a chance creator is not really.
He'll do well at Fulham.
I think he'll just. Yeah, I think he'll hold his own. I don't think he'll be. I don't think he'll go to Fulham, smash it, and then in 3 or 4 years he'll be getting a move back to a Champions League club. He'll be one of those players we look back and think, what did we sell him for?
He'll be one of those players who he does a good job at creating for the mid-table teams. We're not mid-table anymore, but he was for us last season, and he will be for Fulham. It's again though, it's not really losing anything seriously, especially since I do think Harrison can come in and create a similar amount. I think and has more end product. I think McNeil can do the same thing, and McNeil's back now anyway as well, isn't he? I think that's read. He's back in full training at least.
Yeah, he might not make it. He might not play tomorrow, but he'll be back after the international break.
Dyche will not play him against Sheffield United.
No, he won't.
In the break to get Dyche fit.
I think he's back on the grass, Dyche says, but I'd be very surprised if he was even on the bench tomorrow.
Yeah. John's Toffee Blues have put up on the comments Maxwell Cornet is not happening according to the BBC. So Kevin Telwell better hurry up and finish his broom in Agnes's living room and get down the M25 to pick the next person up from the airport.
Well, that's like I said, unless he's the Green Goblin and he's got one of those gliders that he can just fly here on, then he wasn't coming here, was he? And I'd have had him, Maxwell Cornet. I know he's not one of those signings that makes everyone kind of, go, oh, yes, made up, we've got him. Underwhelming. But I think I thought he looked a really good player at Burnley. I know it's not really happened for him at West Ham, but he's been injured and don't really think West Ham signed him with a specific, position for him to play on the pitch. He was signed to be a bit of a makeshift player, wasn't he? Just kind of slot in where and when he was needed because he can play in a few different positions. I think he'd have done well at West Ham if, like Burnley, they'd have signed him with a specific plan in mind for him. And again, as I mentioned, he was unlucky. He picked up a couple of niggles, got a bad calf injury. And it's also worth noting as well, David Moyes is notoriously not a manager who gives a lot of rope to flair players, is he? So, I'd have liked Cornet, and maybe we go and get him in January if he doesn't do anything between now and January. But I saw people turning the nose up at the idea of signing him. I thought a loan deal with an option to buy would have been a good bit of business, personally.
And play left back as well, and did all right at left back. A lot better than what we've got anyway when he was playing there for Burnley.
That's right, yeah, he did play left back. But Eamon Koeman's put in the chat, it's Delhi replacing Iwobi. Dan Kaplan said the same.
It's not.
Dele Alli is
are you not excited about the idea of Dele Alli playing 10 games and then us having to sell Damari Gray just to play Spurs for Dele Alli's instalment?
People need to let it go. The Dele Alli. I'm all for him. Getting his life together and hopefully salvaging his career somewhere. And massive respect to him for opening up the way he has. It must have been a very hard thing to do, but Dele Alli is not gonna sort of set the way on the light of Everton. Come on, no, do you know what I mean?
I think he'll probably do the same job Iwobi did, but then it's the instalments.
Yeah, even if you could guarantee me that Dele Alli, once he's fit, could be for Everton the player he was for Spurs 5 years ago. It's still but as you mentioned, the instalments those instalments is money we don't have to spend. If we had 7 million, if we had 10 million to go spend on a player who's going to come in and play half a dozen games, we'd have got a player in this. We'd be getting a player in today, taking a punt on somebody. You'd think, wouldn't you?
The thing is, though, as well, our players are just looking at the prospect of playing for Everton and going, "No, I'm not doing it," because I think that does play a fact into it. Because to a lot of people, it'll look like a sinking ship, and there's not a lot of players who will want to go. Do you know what? If I save that sinking ship, it'll help my career. Or a lot of players will just think of it as, well, let's just take the easy route. Why would I go there when I can go to Nottingham Forest for more wages and, well, more money probably as well than what we've got to offer?
Yeah. I've said this point before. To the outside world looking in, and they're not wrong thinking it, Everton are just an absolute mess of a football club. Agents must just be telling all their players, unless you can get a stupid contract out of them, don't touch them with a barge pole.
We're a last resort. That's what we are.
sadly.
We're like one of those teams like Norwich or West Brom. Obviously, we don't have the same, up and down history of them, but like players would join them with the things of proving themselves, and that's it. Because there was no risk. That's the point we're getting to being, where we're constantly going to be around this 16th to possibly relegated range, where players might look at us and go, well, I've got no other options in England. It's a good chance to prove myself. That's what we are now. Obviously, there's a chance we do well this season and change that, but it's not looking that way so far. And
not a chance.
I think that's just what a lot of the fans have to look at and accept, is that we are in that range now with Bournemouth, I won't even say Nottingham Forest now because I think they're going to do all right, with Bournemouth, Luton, Sheffield United, Burnley. That's the area we're in. And Bournemouth might even do well, but that's the area of the league we're in, unfortunately. I think that's the area of the league we're going to stay in. It's going to be the last 2 seasons all over again, I think.
Yeah, we're one of those clubs that players look at and think we've got a dirty smell on us, sadly. And that's the board's fault.
And look how many players fail as well.
Eventually, wouldn't you?
It's not just him, though. Go on, Callum, what were you saying?
You've got to look at how many players fail as well. How many players we brought in on big money who just flopped. And obviously, they look at it and go, how am I supposed to get any sort of consistency? Because I think a lot of players are probably looking at it as well and going, yeah, Sean Dyche don't make it past November. Because I don't think Dyche is as awful as some fans think, but at the rate it's going, I do feel like it's going to be Rafa, Lampard, Marco Silva all over again from the way it's going so far.
Ian Cuddy's actually just said in the comments Dyche couldn't run a bath.
That sums it up, really, doesn't it?
I won't go that far. I think I understand a lot of criticisms of Dyche because he gets some things wrong, but he gets a lot right as well.
It's hard because we've played well. We played really well against Fulham and against Wolves, but got let down in striking areas. There's no way on planet Earth we should have ever lost that Fulham game, but we had Neil Maupay up front. And yeah, there was a defensive mistake that led to the goal, but realistically, any competent striker gets a hat-trick that game. Not just one, gets the full hat-trick that game because he had 3 tackles and missed all 3 of them.
Yeah, and that leads me back to my point. Some people are really upset that he's being loaned out. He played well for 5 minutes in the cup against Doncaster in his proper position.
This is the thing, right? Is we created a few chances in that Fulham game, right? But teams like Brighton and teams like Brentford create that many chances every game. So yeah, he might get 4 or 5 Premier League goals, but that's because he's getting 5 or 6 chances a game to do it.
I don't know. He's not our problem anymore, is he? He's gone, and I don't really want to hear his name after tonight. But I'm just thinking about what are the other players that we've got here. Do you think Tamari Gray still goes out? Because I wouldn't be shocked if we pull the plug on that. Yeah, I think
he's just said Gray can still go to Al Shabab. Saudi window closes on Thursday.
He can still go, but I wouldn't be shocked if the club pull the plug on that now. And as Callum says, we turn around and say, no, mate, we're going to need you to stick around until January at least, just for numbers. Because if we were going to sell Gray to Saudi, it was just
really how much money's being put up.
Yeah, if they make a stupid bid like Iwobi, and Fulham, where you just think, oh my God, we'll never get offered anything close to this again. What are they thinking? You've got to snap their hands off, haven't you? But the 10 million or so that we were getting quoted for them, we were taking that because we just needed money in the coffers, didn't we? And we've got that money now.
Yes, we wanted the Tamari Gray money so we could have signed someone today. That's what it was. Also a loan fee for a loan fee or something as well.
Yeah, but who were we going to get? We were going to trade one, average winger for and loan another winger who was probably average.
I was hoping we signed a centre back or a central midfielder today, but like I said, unless Kevin Felwell's got a DeLorean he's garage that ain't telling us about, then it's not happening. That's the big
weakness in the team now. If anything happens to Tarkowski, then oh my God, it's disaster, isn't it, at the back? Because Michael Keane and Godfrey are absolutely diabolical. We'll be leaking goals left, right, and centre if those two get any significant minutes this season. And Branthwaite's completely unproven. For all we know, Branthwaite gets to run the team and flops. I hope he doesn't. I'm reasonably confident that he won't, but you can't get it. People are talking about Branthwaite as if he's already as if they're absolutely sure he's going to play 30 games this season and be brilliant. We've seen other young players come into the team and really struggle. Look at Patterson; he's really struggled, even though he's the established first choice right back now.
It could just be another Godfrey as well. Look at Godfrey's. Was it his first season?
Yeah,
where we all thought he was the second coming of Christ at centre back and full back, and then it's sharp decline.
That's
But
what I mean.
I think he's going to be
Young
good.
players are going to be up and down, aren't they? So it's concerning me just how much pressure people are putting on Braithwaite now. Just like short of the fact that he's going to be good. We don't know for a fact he's going to be good. He's only played in Holland.
Yeah, that's it. And don't get me wrong, I think Michael Keane can be okay if he's playing rotation minutes and he's only coming in when desperately required. But I also just can't imagine poor Braithwaite at 21, 22, having Michael Keane as the leader of his defence beside him.
Oh,
no, I'll disagree with you on that. I don't think Michael Keane should be getting minutes full stop. I just think he's a rubbish player. I think he's a rubbish player. No, but I wouldn't even be comfortable dropping him in for the odd game here and there. I don't want him playing on a Tuesday night against League 2 opposition, because he's just done that and was terrible in that game as well.
Yeah, but saying that, Mykolenko got in the team of the week and we're getting skinned by some young winger every time. So
I know.
Strange.
Some of the stupid signings that this club has made over the last 3 or 4 years. Luca Dean
with Mykolenko.
Luca Dean, for all his faults, and I think our fans did overrate Luca Dean a little bit. But apparently he was a bit of a tit, like off the pitch as well. I've heard, a fair few stories from people who I trust who said that Luca Dean was like not a very easy person to deal with. Like, so even before Benitez got here, apparently, Luca Dean had his detractors within the club, supposedly. But oh my God, to sell him and replace him with Mykolenko, Jesus, it was like saying, no, I won't have this 3-course meal. I'll just have this pot noodle instead.
Do you know what makes it even worse? When you look at it, and obviously we weren't geniuses to predict this, but then the young left back for Fulham, who used to play for us, who's turned out quite good now, who's miles better than Mykolenko, absolutely leaps and bounds better than Mykolenko.
Wasn't he, Anthony Robinson, wasn't he that player who went to have a medical for AC Milan and had filmed all his media stuff and had been shown around the training ground and the stadium, and then something came up with his medical and he had to go back to Fulham?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, no offense to Fulham, but you'd be absolutely heartbroken, wouldn't you? Imagine going to Milan, getting the tour of the San Siro, being given your shirt, the iconic red and black shirt, and being told that you're going to be AC Milan's first choice in your position, and then actually something really small's come up in your medical. You'll have to go back to London now.
Was that even while he was at Fulham, or was that while he was at Wigan? I feel like it might have even been while he was at Wigan.
It was when Fulham were in the Championship.
Yeah, was it? Because part of me thought for some reason it was while he was at Wigan, and then he just went to Fulham instead. Because he had that one, I think it was Wigan. He had one really, really good season for Wigan, I think,
in the Championship, yeah.
And then, because it was the season where Wigan got the points deduction, but then still beat Hull 9-0, I think, and they had Dowell and stuff as well. Or was it? I don't know. I think I might be wrong. I think it was Wigan.
It was 2 or 3 years ago now, and I think Robertson's been at Fulham for at least 4 years. I think he's not a young player anymore, Robinson. Now he's in his
26, 27.
Yeah, it's been around a while. I think it might have been I think he was at Fulham, but he hadn't been at Fulham very long. But imagine that, going to the San Siro and getting the tour around Milan and thinking, oh my God, I've struck gold here. Even though Milan are not, this was before they won the title and they were back in the Champions League. This was a few years ago, and they were still just knocking around mid-table in Serie A. But they're still AC Milan. They're still a super club. Imagine going there thinking you're going to be getting a 4-year contract and playing in the San Siro and wearing that famous strip. Oh no, problems come up, mate. Go back to Fulham and you're going to be playing Ipswich at the weekends and Craven Cottage. Just want to cry, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I think we'll have to get used to playing Ipswich on the weekends next season at this rate. So
there we go.
Do you think?
Ewan Koeman said one thing I will say is that happening in Everton, asset stripping 1,000,000%.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt it is. It wouldn't surprise me, honestly. It would not surprise me at all, because who's the other company who are rumoured with taking over? The ones that have already sunk 2 football clubs.
777. The one who've got apparently the CEO has got a drug dealing conviction.
I don't know.
Someone very high up at 777 has got a drug dealing conviction.
For example, right, I'm sorry, I don't care if he had a drug conviction when he was 16 years old, right? But I think it's the more thing of, what hasn't he sunk Standard Liège and Hertha Berlin? They invested loads into Hertha Berlin, and then just now they're in Bundesliga 2, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not a scholar when it comes to 777. I just know they've got not a great reputation of what they've done so far in European football. But no, I'm not. When I say he's got a drug conviction, I don't mean he got done for carrying a spliff when he was 16. I mean he's been done for like cocaine trafficking. Do you know what I mean? in Miami or something like that. So yeah, they're very, very dodgy people on the surface, at least.
We're going to go from a Russian oligarch to
when they come in, because when they come in, because it looks very likely it's going to be them now. They're going to have to do some serious like PR repair, aren't they? They're going to have to really put their best foot forward. They're going to be giving it the old big smiles and oh yeah, we love Everton. We've studied Everton for years. We love Liverpool, the city. We've done our research. They're going to really have to hammer up as best they can to do the sales pitch, won't they? Because everything you read about them is just leads you to think that they're just absolute scam artists.
Yeah, because I don't really know how it works. Because me and my dad were talking about this, and I went, well, what are they getting heavily involved like Mashiri, or is it a thing where they're just picking the wrong people? Because I don't know how it works if they've got a director of football or anything in Germany. But to be honest, if they're going to come in, put the money in, and then let the football people run the club, it's immediately a better position than what we're in now.
I think they own a club in Italy, don't they? A club that went down.
Genoa.
I think. Yeah, the back. I don't really know what happened today for Berlin. I've not looked into it too much, but I know what happened with Genoa was not. I think they came in halfway through the season, and by then Genoa were a lost cause, sort of thing. So people say, "Oh, they've relegated 2 clubs. They've turned 2 clubs into absolute, bin fires." I think the Genoa one is not fair because, Genoa's problems were already like deeply rooted before 777 rocked up, and as you said, they've come back now. So I don't really think it's fair to say they've relegated 2 clubs. The Hertha Berlin one, it's complicated here for Berlin because the Germany, 50 plus 1 rule. We'll have to look into that, but I don't think 777 is like terrible as people make out. But I think they're not they're not our knights in shining armor either.
I'm just reading up. They only bought into Hertha Berlin in March this year.
Well, is the relegation? Yeah, well, there you go. Then that relegation's not on them either.
So I'm going to say, all the fans on Twitter who were shitting on them are shitting on the wrong ownership group because it's the ownership group before that's got them in this position. Then,
yeah, fans on Twitter.
From what I've heard, this 777, what they like to buy clubs while the stock's low, presumably because the
that's what they do. They
less value and then trying to
sell them for a profit. Yeah,
increase the value and sell on for a profit. It'll be an exit strategy.
Yeah,
I'm not going to complain if they do that well.
It's one of them with 777. I think a lot of the detractors, the criticism they get is because they haven't really. They're a bit of an unknown in terms of soccer, football. They haven't really got something they can point to where they can go, right, we bought into that club and we completely turned it around and there's proof that we know what we're doing, sort of thing. People are just, and they're not as rich as they make out. The Esk has said on his podcasts that they don't have the money to buy out Mashiri. The price they're getting quoted by Mashiri is something they can't afford. They're just promising that they'll get the money together, and apparently they're going around the US right now trying to get people to pool in with them, sort of thing. And is that really a good sign when your football club's going to be bought by people who don't have the money to buy it anyway? They're just going to leverage it with debt.
Yeah, because then we're just going to get put in the same position again.
Yeah, that's what people are more worried about, the fact that 777, not because they're necessarily proven to just be absolutely terrible at running football clubs, it's because they don't have the resources that you would need to be turning Everton Football Club into something far better than what it is now. You'd have to pay for the stadium, and you'd have to be able to pour money in for new players as well. And they haven't got that money unless they borrow it off someone else. And then if they borrow it off someone else, we're just, as you said, we're back to square one. We're at the mercy of all these outside companies.
I think it will be a position where we are going to get, it might not be 777, but it will be. So people are going to wait until Mashiri's at his most desperate to sell. And then it's going to be at the point where someone will, I think, be able to take it for a cheaper price than originally quoted. And then it's going to be, hopefully it's the right person. But yeah, to be honest,
I think Macheri'd sell now, mate. I think he is at that point where he's more desperate to sell than ever. The only way it could get worse for us is if we go down, and he's not going to get anywhere near the money.
Well, it could even be a situation where they want to see where the club is. For example, in January, if we're 12th and looking all right, all of a sudden, it might be a thing where
money.
Well, not even that, where another owner will go, right, well, I'll invest now because at least there's good hope of getting that Premier League revenue in next year instead of buying us now, us getting relegated and then losing all that TV revenue, which is one of the main reasons people like to invest in Premier League teams because of how much money they get from the TV revenue.
Well, that's what happened with MSP, and that's what happens with that, consortium that bought Leeds, the 49ers or somebody. They wanted to wait until the season was finished to see what league we'd each be in before they decided how much they were willing to put on the table. But what's happened with MSP is rights of media, we've been over it, have vetoed the deal. And also 777, around the same time, they've come back into the picture and they've promised Macheri a bigger fee than what MSP were doing. MSP were obviously going to loan us the money for the stadium and then take a chunk of the shares and seats on the board instead of us repaying the debt. Whereas 777 have just said to Macheri, we'll just buy it outright. And he just wants out the club now because he wants to just get his money and run, doesn't he? Because of his sanctions, he wants to just cash out, get as much as he can, and then we'll never hear from him again. Him and Usmanov.
The thing is, if this 777 is an American company, have you noticed as well that all the American companies that are taking over football clubs will pick some sports star to be front and centre for him?
Yeah, someone to come in with them. Liverpool have got LeBron James, haven't they?
Burnley have got bloody he's some NFL player, and then bloody
Tom Brady, innit?
No, he's gone over to Birmingham. Tom Brady.
They've got that. Do you not remember that YouTube channel that used to do stupid trick shots? Oh, what are they called? No. I don't remember the name, but I saw it the other day. I think they're literally owned by a YouTube group, or partly owned by a YouTube group, Burnley.
That's what MSP are doing now. They're going now and trying to just. This is just hypotheticals. Like, let's say Macheri said, "I want 300 million for Everton," and they don't have that money on their own. They're going going to your likes of your famous NFL players or your basketball players or some other, group that owns an American sports team, saying, "Okay, give us 50 million, join our consortium, put 50 million in, and you can have X amount of shares and probably a box at Bramley Moor or something like that." But it just leaves you at people's mercy, doesn't it? Because for all we know, these clubs that loaned 777 the money could just say, "No, I want my investment back now," and we haven't got the money to give them.
Oh yeah, well, Dan Kaplan's just said, "Who is there?" JJ Watt's the NFL player I was thinking of. I can't think of the other group, but yeah, it's him. So I think there's a player involved in Leeds as well, and then obviously Liam puts here. But oh god, I think were we not considered by them? I think because Saudi were considering quite a few clubs, weren't there, in England, and then they narrowed it down to Newcastle. But I don't blame them for picking Newcastle.
There's rumours, isn't there? But it's the old rumour, and Man City's owners were looking at us before they bought Man City. But the reason they didn't go for us is because the King's Dock deal didn't go through. You'll never prove it, will you? But it wouldn't shock me if they were looking at us and just decided, no, they're too much of a mess and it's too much of an effort. But that's what a lot of people who buy football clubs do, especially American owners. They buy clubs so when they're cheap and then when they're on their arse, they raise the value and then they sell it for a profit. They always have an exit strategy. They're not in it to be owners for 50 years and through the generations. It's the same with Liverpool now, with FSG that they've got. They didn't buy Liverpool in 2011, whatever it was, still thinking that they'll be owning Liverpool in 2040. They bought it when Liverpool were on their arse, when they were minutes away from administration, and thought, we'll build this bit back up as a business. We'll increase the revenue that they make as an international brand, which they've done tenfold. And when Liverpool's at its absolute zenith, we'll sell it for as much money as we can get it. They were very close to selling it a few months ago, weren't they, to some Qataris, but for whatever reason, the deal fell through.
Same ones who ended up going in for United, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now Liverpool are in a position where they're 100%, even now or in January, are going to get £200 million for a 31-year-old footballer. So
he won't go. No, he won't go. He'll go next summer, Salah, because he's a prize. He's an absolute prize thing to have him because he's probably the most famous Muslim footballer in the world.
Oh yeah, that's what they've been saying on Sky Sports all day.
Yeah, he is Messi and Ronaldo combined in the Middle East. He's like what David Beckham was 20 years ago. He's the most famous sportsman in that region of the world. This makes no difference to them whether they get him now, whether they get him next summer. They'll have him when he's 35. Do you know what I mean? They just want him because he'll get so much attention from that region.
Yeah,
because he's loved all over by Muslim populations.
I think he'd have went earlier in the window if they bidded earlier, but obviously, I think they signed that Jota, and then now all of a sudden that Jota's not in the plans anymore. So they've won Salah now.
Actually today, hasn't he? I mean, doesn't look like it's happening, but I probably took him.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is. That Jota used to play for Celtic, but apparently now he's not. But apparently saying that Nuno said that Benzema wasn't in his plans either, so God knows.
Well, Benzema's the current Ballon d'Or holder, isn't he? He's worth far more to that Saudi club than Nuno Espirito Santo is. If he's not in your plans, Nuno, you better change your plans, otherwise you're out of a job.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I mean? No. There'll be a lot of players who go over to Saudi Arabia, and yet they're getting the money, but the lifestyle will just be an absolute culture shock for them. Because you can live in these big mansions with servants, but it's still a very conservative country. They'll realise that all the pleasures that they have over here, they can't have over there. Like, I'm not an expert, but there'll just be some things that are taken for granted that they have here that they can't have there. Like their wife won't move over with them because there's no nail salons anywhere, and they can't go and get their hair done because it's a very conservative Muslim country, and they'll go, "I'm not staying here." It wouldn't shock me. That's what's happened with that Jota. He's got there, and his wife or his girlfriend or his mum or his kids have realised just how miserable a lifestyle it is outside of the house, and realised we can't live here. I'm not going to school here. I can't make friends with anyone here. I can't live here. So tell this club that you'll give the money back so we can go home.
Yeah, I think we're at the point now, though, where we have to look at what Irwin says here. And when are we allowed to start the agenda of Eden Hazard playing forever?
No, he's retiring, isn't he? He wants to retire.
Yeah, no one wants him.
No one wants him. Apparently, they do want him. Like, no super clubs want him. Like, no champ. But apparently, he's got offers from clubs in Belgium and clubs in France.
Like Nice, I think I saw.
Nice. Respected clubs. They're not. It's not Sunday League, is it? Do you know what I mean? But apparently Hazard's just got no hunger. He wants to retire, and it's just the people around him, like his agents and his trainers and his parents, were trying to say, "No, you're too young. Like, get every bit of talent out of yourself," sort of thing. Don't kind of just retire on a damp squib, because he's not played football hardly in the last 3 years, has he? Because of injuries and other problems. But just the fire's gone out completely, hasn't it? And he just would rather sit on his sun lounger now and scoff rather than carry on to when he's 34, 35.
I don't know what we do, because again, Jesse Lingard wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you.
Going to West Ham, isn't he, on a short term?
I don't have a clue. But I think I look at it and go, well, we're in the position now where we've got no news has come out, 10 minutes left until the window's done. Nothing's happening. So it's one of those where, don't get me wrong, right? The thing is, we might do a bit of business in January, but I think now it's a situation where we're in one where it's just completely relying on players like Beto to score the goals. And to be fair, if we can start scoring goals, I've got no worry about us getting relegated, to be completely honest with you. But it's if Beto does. He looked good against Doncaster, but they're bottom of League 2.
We just need players to stay fit. If McNeil gets back fit and doesn't get injured between now and the end of the season, if Harrison can get fit and doesn't pick up any more problems and can play to the level we think he's going to, then we'll be all right. How many goals did we score last season? It was less than 38, because we scored on average less than a goal a game, didn't we?
Second worst in the league behind Wolves. I think Wolves got 34, so between 34 and 37, I think. I
think with the business we've done, if people stay fit, we'll score over 50 goals this season. But you look at the defence is the problem. It's the complete opposite of last summer, where you thought, okay, we've sorted out our defence. We've got Connor Cody. Everyone was excited, thinking Nathan Patterson was going to come in and smash it. We had what am I thinking of? People weren't quite as down on Michael Keane as they are now. but we had no goals in the team up top. It's the complete opposite now. You look at us and you think, yeah, we'll score. We'll have no problem, scoring, winning games by 2 or 3 goals this time round. But are we going to be able to keep the goals out at the other end? So it just kind of feels like the scales have gone like that.
Are we talking about the same team here? Because I don't see where the 2 or 3 goals are coming from.
If everyone plays to the level, do you know what I mean? If Harrison, McNeil putting crosses into Calvert-Lewin or to Beto, we should be scoring goals.
And
Not like
Danjuma was performing in the
do you know
Champions League as well. Like, I know he hasn't been amazing so far. He's been pretty good in the games, but not like a world beater. But he was consistently performing in the Champions League and then was doing it for Villarreal. But did well for Bournemouth as well. I think.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, because the thing is, right, what it's looked like in Fulham and Wolves is that creating the chances wasn't a problem. It was finishing them off. And if Beto can finish the chances, which, again, it looks, from what it seems like, he can, and he gets in the positions to, again, League 2 opposition, but that's all the sample size we have, and he's got a good record at Udinese for getting in the position, then it's a thing where...
He's just got to put himself about, isn't he?
Yeah, I think we're in a situation where it is going to be much more reliant on the defence than the attack. And like I said, unless we're going to see drastic improvement from Patterson, maybe he moves Garner out to right back, but I don't know about his willingness to do that. And then, I don't know, I think the ship sailed on Michaelenko, and we're going to have to be relying on Ashley Young until January, which is then where Dyche will realise, shit, we need a left back.
This is where Dyche is going to have to, earn his money here and prove that he's the manager that a lot of his supporters say he is, because everyone thought he was going to tighten us up and make us a tough team to beat, and he'd get the defence really organised. Well, it's time to do that now, because we haven't got numbers in that area of the team, have we? We've got players in those positions who are very, very shaky, or are very young and unproven. This is where you should need to prove, Sean Dyche, that you are this sort of really good defensive manager and you can organise teams, because the rest of the team will take care of itself. It's easier to coach a team how to defend than to coach a team and how to start scoring, isn't it? The goals will come, you'd like to think. It's just making sure that everything else is... everyone's playing up to their levels at the other end of the pitch. So...
Yeah,
if we're conceding goals left, right, and centre, like we're worrying we're going to, then Sean Dyche is not the manager that a lot of people want to believe he is.
Yeah, I think, and to be honest, I hope it is the former, because there's only so much manager merry-go-round we can do, because, like, who's going to be available in December if this happens again? Because let's look at the simple facts. Graham Potter, who I think is a decent coach, drags us to relegation because this team is not playing the football he wants. And then who else is there? Like, because let's be realistic now. We are only bringing in desperate managers.
Jesse Marsh.
That's what Sean Dyche was. I know he might have a higher standard than people like Jesse Marsh, but he got offered this, and I think he had some other job proposal. Who was he going to join before he joined us that he got rumoured with? It was a championship team.
I don't remember.
Some championship team, and then we got... Maybe he was in the calling... I think he might have been in the calling for the Forest job before Cooper got that. Before Cooper got that, he was in... And obviously, I can't imagine Forest will get that decision now, of picking Cooper instead. But I think it's this thing where I don't know. I feel like a lot of this doesn't feel as much as Dyche's fault as it did, for example, felt like Lampard's fault or Rafa's fault in the past. I mean, a lot of it... Because, like I said, and you look at our 3-game sample size, we had 2 games where we played really well, and if it wasn't for being let down by certain players, then even the Villa game, I think we lose that no matter what, but that was just an all-time bad performance from Michael Keane as well. And I think it's just, if he's given up on this persistence to play Michael Keane, then I think we'll be in a better position, because I do think Bramford is better than Keane, and I think even against Wolves, he looked so much more comfortable than Keane did, even at his young age. Then I think we're in a situation where it shouldn't be as bad as last season or the past 2. It shouldn't be. Like, there's building blocks there for us to be, comfortably avoiding relegation. Maybe not pushing on to the top half, but in that comfortable position, like a Crystal Palace, for example, where we don't have to worry about relegation, but we're not really pushing on to anything special.
Yeah, 40+ points, isn't it? We'll have to wait and see. I know the window hasn't been, a roaring success, but I am convinced that, unless we get another crazy injury crisis or something, I'm convinced we will win more games than we won last season. How many did we end up winning last season? Like 9?
Less than that.
8, 9. I think we drew about 10. I think we'll win. We'll win over 10 games this season, which is 30 points. And I think if we can win, let's say, 12 games and draw 8, that's 40 points. And that's very doable with this group of players, I think. It's providing they all stay fit long term.
Yeah, you bang on. We won 8.
1-8. Yeah, come on. The reason we won so few games is not because the defence was terrible, which it was at times, but over the course of the season, it wasn't because the defence was so diabolical. It was because the attack was so diabolical.
Well, weren't we? We were one of the best defences in the league for a while, for a decent amount of time at the start of the season.
We the likes, Cody and Tarkowski had a little partnership going, didn't they? But we weren't one of the best teams defensively in terms of preventing chances. Teams were still, carving us open and things like that. We just weren't throwing the ball in our net until Michael Keane came into the side.
Yeah. I think it is one of those where, it's going to be one of those situations where I don't think it's going to be as bad as last season. But this goes one of two ways. It really won't surprise me if Dyche's gone in November with how this club is at the same time. I think it's one of those where I feel like the next 2 or 3 games is really going to decide it. Because, for example, if we lose the next 3 games, I just don't know if they'll persist losing 6 out of 6 to start the season. Your only win being against Doncaster.
I think it's one of those. So, like, you've got to weigh up. If they do sack him, who would they bring in? Like,
there'll be no one, but that hasn't stopped.
No one, mate. It doesn't even bear thinking about. Because if we sack Dyche, then
it hasn't stopped him in the past, which is my only worry.
It'll be the only person who'd take it would be probably some foreigner we've never even heard of. Do you know what I mean? People say Lee Carlsley or Graham Potter. They're nowhere near stupid enough. Even if Graham Potter's still out of a job by then, Graham Potter will get another decent, position somewhere if he just bides his time a little bit. He can do a lot better than where Everton would be if we sack Sean Dyche. And Lee Carsley's doing all right with the England under 21s. If he sticks with that for a little bit, he'll probably get a phone call in the next year or 2 from a club in a much better position than we would be in.
I think he'll get one this winter from a better team than us. He's already won the trophy with the under 21s. He's already got the trophy under his belt, so it's what helped get managers like Steve Cooper a job at Swansea, winning stuff with their England unders groups. So, but the thing is, the managers available now are that realistically we could get there's a lot of good managers available. Don't get me wrong, but who's going to Julian Nagelsmann, Gaultier, Conte? They're not going to join Everton, are they?
No chance.
No chance. Not a chance in hell. I think Potter would at a start of the season, maybe, if he was promised funding and stuff. But why would he come in the middle of the season when he's already had his reputation crushed at Chelsea?
Exactly. He wouldn't touch us not mid-season.
I'm looking through the list now, and it'll be, like you mentioned, it'll be Hasenhuttl, Marsh, Javi Gracia, I don't know. That's it. One of those.
Shiver then.
Unless someone else gets sacked, and you think, oh well, he's actually a decent manager. But I'm looking at it who's going to get sacked? Luton aren't going to sack their manager, who's a good manager, because why would they? I think Luton came into the season with the thing where it's try lads, but we won't be surprised if you go down. It's one of those.
Entire season's a free hit for them, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. This entire season for them is just it's like Huddersfield when they came up. It'd be really nice for you to stay up, but we're just here for the Premier League money, and then the parachute payments are going to sort us out to help us sort our stadium.
Yeah, if we sack Dyche at any point this season, the only person we'd replace him would be some manager who's on the absolute bones of his arse, who's been sacked from 2 other jobs before. Your Jesse Marshes, your Javi Gracias, your Hasenhuttls, and who realistically wants them? Only fans who are stupid. Or it'll be a manager who no one's heard of, some manager from Japan or some manager from Bulgaria or some manager from South America who could turn out to be good, but because it's happened before in football, hasn't it? Completely unknowns come in and they prove themselves to be really, really successful. But do you really trust Everton to go find this absolutely brilliant manager, this sort of gem under a rock? No.
It's not like it was 10 years ago when Moyes left, where we could look at a manager doing well with a team like Wigan, like Martinez was, and we can go, do you want to come to Everton, mate? Because, for example, what are we going to go to Brentford and go, give us Thomas Frank, mate? Thomas Frank's going to turn around and go, do one. Not a chance.
We are not a step up for a manager, for an established Premier League manager anymore, or a manager who you'd be confident could do well and hold their own in the Premier League.
We're not the step up now. We're the step they take to get that job. Where, for example, let's say you're right, Dyche gets sacked, this Bulgarian fella comes in, smashes it with us, we finish 11th, play good football. That Bulgarian manager has come to Everton for the sole purpose of getting the Chelsea job or something.
Exactly, yeah. And then you just become a merry-go-round club and part of the Premier League package, really, a club with no identity and no sort of reason for anyone to give a shit about.
That's what we've been since Moshiri came in, to be honest. Besides the Ancelotti season.
Yeah, other than Ancelotti's little period, we have just been this sort of irrelevant shit, just part of the Premier League package. All these clubs that were miles behind us, the likes of your Bournemouths, your Brightons, your Crystal Palaces, even your Aston Villas. I know Aston Villa were a big club historically, but they went down not too long ago, didn't they? They were in the Championship only 2-3 years ago. They are all now miles ahead of us. We have such a start on them.
West Ham were almost getting relegated every season, and then you look at it, the lockdown season, the season after that, and where they are now. I think, are they still top? Did they beat Luton?
I think they did, yeah.
So they're top of the league. They've just sold the best player and replaced him.
Playing in Europe consistently, aren't they?
They're basically doing what Moyes used to do with us, but with more money.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing, selling the best players, replacing them well, and then kicking on again. And it's every team that was around us back then are better than us now.
Teams have been relegated and come back and gone ahead of us in that time. Newcastle and Aston Villa. Those are clubs that have gone down in the last 5 or 6 years and have managed to go back to the Premier League and overtake us. Who?
Bournemouth are ahead of us now. Bournemouth.
Yeah, I'd say they are. Yeah. Nottingham Forest are ahead of us. Another team that we were in the Premier League when they were knocking around the Championship, completely not doing anything, nowhere near promotion.
Yeah, don't get us wrong, right? Dyche could get it right because he is a decent manager. He's a better manager than the position that we're in the table. He proved it. Look at how many times David Moyes failed before he got it right with West Ham. Is the one thing I will say in Dyche's defence. No one will look at Moyes now and go, terrible manager, but when he were at Sunderland, that's exactly what people were saying.
Yeah, I always felt people were silly to write Moyes off. A lot of people wish we'd brought Moyes back. I'm not one of those people. I think Moyes had his time and he wouldn't be doing with Everton what he's managed to be doing at West Ham.
Kept the faith in him. They got rid of him, brought him back, and give him the money he needed and put him in the position he needed. Obviously, it helped that they had a player like Declan Rice in their academy as well. Let's not play down the impact that had. Obviously, he played him and stuff, but the ability was clearly there to be one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. So he had that there. We've had, the best player that our academy.
Tom Davis
and Anthony Gordon. Who, don't get me wrong, Gordon's looked all right for Newcastle this season. A lot better than he did last season, but not close to the ability of a £50 million player.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, he's never going to be the first name on the England team sheet, is he?
No, but look, he's one of those players where he'll be in the periphery of the squad if injuries happen. That's Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, well, we're nearly coming up to an hour on the stream. The window actually shut 4 minutes ago, didn't it?
Window shut, yeah.
Yes, we're done.
Nothing. Overall, then, how would you rate the window out of 10?
Oh, right. Let me try take today out of it. I don't know, like a 6. That's going off only seeing Beto for one game though. Like, if Beto is a decent player and actually can score the goals, it could be a 7 or an 8. But going off just from what I've seen, because I think Danjuma's looked good. I think, he's proven he can have an impact on a game, which is something we wanted from a winger. Harrison hasn't played yet, but from what I saw at Leeds, Harrison was good. And again, I think, but he had a few injury problems at Leeds as well. He always seemed to miss a decent chunk of the season. Who else have we signed? Ashley Young. Who else have we signed? Ashley Young, Harrison, Beto, Danjuma. Is that it?
I think there's another one.
Chimiti. Yeah, I forgot about him earlier as well. But yeah, he's a complete unknown, and he looked again. He's another one. Was it Wolves he played against?
He came on for like 20 minutes against Wolves.
Decent against Wolves. Looked awful against Doncaster. So, but again, he's 19 and been in England for 2 weeks. So
you just say about a 6 out of 10. It's been good, but it could and should have been better.
I'm gonna give it a 4. I think Beto probably counts for about 2 of them 4. No, I'm not happy with it at all. I think the centre-back position's been handled disgracefully. I thought, why on earth didn't we just pay the 4 million for Conor Cody? Just to shore things up for another season or 2. The lack of recruitment at the back's awful. The defence is not... I'm not confident our defence is going to hold up. Even with Sean Dyche, who's an all-right defensive manager, I don't think that defence is going to hold up this season. I feel we'll be in the bottom 3 going into January, and we'll need signings then. God knows what position the club's going to be in by then, but I think that's where we'll be at on the pitch. I think the attacking side of things has been improved, I will say that. But I think to stay up, we need to be stronger at the back. There's no doubt about it. Like Callum said, though, Brantwaite playing will probably help us, but one injury in that defence and we're screwed.
Oh, yeah. I think it's just, again, it is hoping that there's not an injury, which probably now I think about it, does knock it down a bit that way.
Let's put it straight. That never happens at Everton.
No, we get at least 2 or 3 crippled at the most important part of the season every time. But as long, you look at it and you go, especially Tarkowski. Like, obviously, for example, if Michael Keane gets injured, I think fans will start celebrating, knowing our fans. But, it's a thing where if Tarkowski gets injured, that is genuinely almost a season over level injury. Because like the only thing worse would be if Beto went, and that's only because I do not rely on Calvert-Lewin playing 3 games in a row without something exploding in his body.
The only injury that could be possibly even worse than Tarkowski would be Pickford, because we've only got Virginia, haven't we? And Virginia's completely unproven.
Oh, Christ.
No, don't. Why have you put that thought into my head?
For me, the window, I'd give it a 5. It's not been disastrous. I think we've improved the team, and we've improved the squad in areas where we desperately need to improve. But I do agree with you, we've left ourselves light at the back. If we'd have signed Conor Cody, then I would have put this at a 7 or an 8 window. And there was no reason why we couldn't sign him. As I was saying earlier on, you can't expect to get everything you want done in one window. It's very rare that any club ever has a 10 out of 10 transfer window where you just think we've smashed it, we've got every bit of business done that we wanted to get done. It's just not realistic. But we could and should have got that Cody deal done, and we chose not to because Dyche didn't like Cody as in a centre back too. He wanted to, because if Dyche planned to play a 3 at the back, then I think we would have signed Cody, but he's never really played it, has he? And I think that's why he decided not to do it, because he trusted that with a pre-season Michael Keane would screw his head on and he could turn him into a competent player again, and he's had to learn the hard way that it's just not going to happen. So
he don't play the same system he played at Burnley as well, which I don't get why he's had so much blind faith in Michael Keane, because he had with Keane, he had 2 of the most reliable centre backs in the Premier League to partner besides him when he had me and Tarkowski. And in that one season, Michael Keane kept his form, but it's like the structure was there, and it's obvious Dyche is trying to play a completely different style of football with us. So I don't get why he's so much. Like, he actually looks like he's trying to play a bit of football, because you'll see it where the centre backs will travel out a bit and try to play it out, which is why immediately I thought, why is Branthwaite not playing when he's just spent a full season in Holland doing that? I know it's only Holland, but he's got a full season's worth of experience where Michael Keane's playing out from the back is walk 10 yards, shit himself when someone comes near him and lump it.
True. For me, it's a 5 out of 10, but it could have been a 7 or an 8 if we'd have just got that Cody deal done. And like you said, Callum, I've bumped it up to 5 purely on the basis of that Beto deal getting done. A week ago, I'd have said this was a 1 out of 10 window, because Ashley Young, I know he's 38 and he's experienced and he's in good condition for a player of his age, but he's not going to be a difference maker in this Everton team.
He'll get skinned by a decent winger. He'll get absolutely pawned his arse by a decent winger with a bit of pace. He was all right against Fulham, but I don't even want to picture the derby when he's got a Mark Salah.
I know. Jesus Christ. Why have you put that image in my head?
I don't even want to, because Salah's the best right winger I can think of straight away. I don't even want to picture what he's going to do to him.
I think if everyone stays fit, if Everton's best 11, which for me would be a fit Calvert-Lewin with McNeil and Jack Harrison on the wings.
Do you think it's going to go like pure 4-4-2? And
no.
Someone like, and then it will be, because I don't know, would Beto and Calvert-Lewin up front work? And probably not. Unless
I think we'll try it at points of the season, maybe when we're chasing a game, when we're trying to salvage a point or something. But I don't think we'll see it as a starting
team. I could see us doing that against a team like Man City, for example, where our entire plan will be everyone sit back, and then it'll be McNeil and Harrison to just cross it. And that'll be the entire plan. It'll be pure set piece goals, is what we'll do.
We won't see much of it though, because I don't think Dyche will. You can't really play just two centre midfielders anymore, because even against the teams down the bottom, you give it up midfield, you just completely surrender in the midfield, and if you lose the midfield, you almost always lose the game in this league nowadays. So
I think you'd have to have one of those wingers at least adept in playing centrally, and I don't think either Harrison or McNeil can do that. And obviously, I don't really want any more of James Garner at right midfield. It's not his position. I'd rather have him have right back, because he overlaps much better than being overlapped, and he's a better right back than Patterson, even if it's not his natural position. But I would rather have two wingers who are natural wingers in the position compared to fullbacks, where I think midfielders can suit to playing out at fullback a lot more now, but just because of the way fullbacks play now.
I think with what we've got, as long as there's no big injury crisis, I think we've got enough to stay up. Fingers crossed. I don't think it will be pretty. I think there'll be some games where we get absolutely battered. I think, as you said, the derbies are going to be brutal. The Man City games are going to be brutal. Probably the Arsenal games and the Tottenham games are going to be brutal as well. We'll take some absolute thumpings and have some really bad days over the course of this year. But I do think we're going to be winning more than 8 games with the squad we've got now. And let's say we win 11 games, that's 33 points. And let's say we draw half a dozen, that's 40. And that's all I care about this season. Just get to 40 points, because we won't go down. We've got 40 points, surely to God. So it's going to be a real slog of a campaign. It's going to be dire to watch at times, but I don't think it will be quite as I don't think the anxiety levels will hit what they were last season. I know it's bad now because we've lost the first 3 games and we're like joint bottom of the table. But I think by mid-October we won't be in the bottom 3 anymore. Won't be far away from it, but I think we won't spend much time in the bottom 3 this season. I think it'll be one of them where we don't ever climb into the top half, and we don't ever fully pull away from the bottom 3, but we'll always manage to stay 2 or 3 points ahead of the danger zone.
Yeah, instead of like the last 2 where we've dropped in for multiple weeks. Like last season, we spent most of that season in the relegation zone, didn't we?
That's what I mean. Yeah, I don't think that will be the case this time round. Even though we'll be close to it and people will be nervous, I don't think it'll be.
You're saying that we're in it
falling off. Yeah, that's what I mean. We're in it right now, but I think
games though.
I think in a month's time we won't be in it. Personally, with the squad we've got now.
Season, Nottingham Forest in the Championship got promoted after like 12 games where they were rock bottom. I'm not saying we'll have some like unbelievable bounce back into Europe, and I know we've played 3 teams that realistically, besides Villa, we should be beating Fulham and Wolves, especially Wolves at home, But it's 3 games in, and I know obviously it's easier to panic. I'm panicking a bit, but hopefully Sean Dyche sees the reaction and uses it as some sort of motivation to the players tomorrow, because it should be used. He should be marching into the changing room tomorrow and being, look at this, lads, proved all these idiots wrong. Because that does work. I don't care what people say. That style of motivation does work, because it worked for us the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, the siege mentality helps, but let's be honest now. I think, obviously, when last season concluded, we had a brief period of, really going on the offensive, and the whole, we tried to protest and force some change. That got put on the back burner for a bit. The windows closed, and let's be honest, the situation we're in is not satisfactory.
Nothing's really changed, has it?
Do we go back? Obviously, there's a game of football to be played tomorrow, or is it Sunday? I'm not actually sure.
It's tomorrow. Early kickoff.
12:30 as well. So we've got to get up, and then to start of our afternoon, we've got to watch Everton give Sheffield United 70% of the ball.
Christ alive. But I think once that's done, you've got to get right back on it and protest even more vociferously, in my opinion, because, we've been lied to again. Let's be honest. It's I don't know how much of it's. You can't really blame Dyche or even Tellwell that much for this.
They've done their job, I think.
Well, as well as they could anyway, but they've pretty much had both limbs chopped off while they've been trying to do it, because they've been sold short by the board again and the owner and the whole situation. I think we've got to protest more aggressively, to be honest with you. I think it's got to be ramped up now. I think
I think it does, but I think the only problem is football's very shallow, in a sense where we go to Sheffield tomorrow, we pummel them 3-0 at their own ground, play some decent stuff. No one's going to want to protest then. And I kind of understandably, because it's the first win of the season, everyone will want that euphoria that comes along with that. Then let's say by some miracle we beat Arsenal as well, we go on a decent bit of run of form, and all of a sudden the club's in a good position, and that's just how it works. It's not just our fans, because I do hate when people go on Twitter and say, "Oh, it's just our fans." Man United fans, look at every time Man United go on a good run of form. As soon as they go on a bad run of form, Glazers out every time without fail. Every fan base does it, because football's a shallow sport, which is based on.
I will give Man United fans. I think they tend to try and stick at it more than we do. I feel like our fans accept too much of the kicks in the teeth that we get from
our fans. Just lazy. I'll say it, but if you don't want it, they're just lazy.
I just don't think our fan base sometimes is passionate enough.
I think it's very much. It's like that point in the, where you'll see like the memes online of, "Oh, this has happened so long, I don't care anymore," sort of thing. I think
it is.
I think that's what it is, and I don't think that should be the case, because I get right. Football is it is a game. It's meant to have fun. I don't care what anyone says about supporting your football team is meant to be fun. That is meant to be number one priority, really. Let's face facts here. And I kind of get the idea that it's not with Everton, because especially something that, you look at, we're on a bloody YouTube channel talking about the club, for God's sakes. So it does affect people's moods and shit like that. But in the end, that's it. Well, I think that sums up what I was saying before perfectly, is it affects the mood. So if everything's going well, you don't want to protest, even if you should. And I do think it should be a thing now where people put their foot down. But is it going to happen? I'm not going to get my hopes up for it.
No, me neither. But I just
all we can do is cross our fingers that we go on a good run of form and something happens off the pitch.
I think the better we play, the more prospects we have of getting taken over by someone better than 777, because they'll then look at it and go, the Premier League revenue for next season is there. The biggest reason to buy Everton is there.
Maybe.
We'll have to hope, but anyway, it's coming on to 11:30, boys. I'm going to have to shoot.
We'll wrap it up there.
Bit of a crappy final day, hasn't it? But still, a lot to talk about, isn't there, in terms of where the club is overall. But let's just hope we get that 3 points tomorrow, and we're off to the races.
Let's be honest, today was not unless that we were expecting.
Oh no, me and my dad have been saying it all day.
We'll leave it there, but get 3 points tomorrow, as Callum's just said. The whole world seems a bit brighter, doesn't it? So
We'll
let's
see.
let's cross our fingers. 2-0 Beto to get both
Come on
goals.
for my fantasy team, Beto.
Come in, lad.
We'll wrap it up there anyway, guys. Thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues. Thanks for suffering the last hour for what it was worth. And yeah, like we said there, fingers crossed for a decent result tomorrow and pick the mood up a little bit and tune in for more content. Then give this video a like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.